This is a Nintendo Famicom. This is an FC Compact 2, a FamiClone. They look identical. Dimensionally, exactly the same. The branding is pretty close, other than this one doesn't actually say Nintendo on it. But in passing by, you wouldn't tell the difference. This one does have some nice things. It actually has a power LED. It has RCA jacks on the back. It does everything that you'd expect your Famicom to do. Maybe a little better because there's newer parts in it, but it's still a clone system. And you're probably wondering, Mike, why did you buy a clone? You have a working Famicom. Well, I need it for a project, and I don't want to talk about the project just yet, but before I rip the guts out of this thing and redo it, let's take a look at this FamiClone. So the packaging on this is actually surprisingly nice for how cheap this is. So like I said, this is the FC Compact 2. This is for the 30th anniversary in a nostalgic red and white TV game, Update 2 Generation. It's for the 30th anniversary of the FC, so assuming the Famicom. Bought this for a couple reasons. One, the price is right. I needed a small footprint board for a project I'm working on, but mostly because this is compatible with all shops on the market. Really, really useful when you're looking for something like this. So let's open it up and take a look at what we have, and then we're going to compare this to an actual Famicom. This comes with a generic 132 in one cart with all of your favorite games on it. Probably more than 132 in there, I would venture. We get our AV lead. This is actually RCA to RCA. Two controllers, neither of which have the microphone like the actual Famicom controllers. Not really a surprise, but you know, that's what it is. Kind of deal with that. A small wall wart, so 110, 240 in, 9-volt DC out. Again, another selling point for the secret project I'm working on. And of course, the system itself. All right, so being a FamiClone, we expected to play all the games that a regular Famicom would, including the Famicom disk system. And of course, your carts fit. They even have the eject button. I'm using here Gorbino Pipeline Daisaken or Gorbachev's Pipeline Dream. Actually, it's a pretty interesting game, but you see it works perfectly in both of them. The cart that it came with, though, is not surprisingly assembled so poorly that sometimes when you insert it, it actually separates the bottom, and you can see it's starting to come off a little bit here, and that's just from putting it into the system itself. The controller is, it's about the same size, but we do have 4 buttons, so I would assume that this is A and B, and it's the same thing for these two here. This is a standard 9-pin game port like you'd see on Sega Genesis. This might even be compatible with a Genesis. It might work, or I can use a Genesis controller on here. It might be something I'm going to try out later on. But the second controller doesn't have the microphone like you'd expect on an actual Famicom. So, for the, handful of games you need it for, that's not necessarily a loss. But it is nice because the controllers plug into the front, so you get more reach than with the original controllers. They feel pretty good. Yeah, I would be pretty happy playing this for a while. But other than that, yeah, they're pretty much the same footprint-wise. So let's get them open and let's compare this board to the Famicom board. So it's really no surprise that the FamiClone is smaller. It has 3 separate boards, controller, actually the edge connector, and a little bit of circuitry here, and power and video out. All 3 of these combined is about a little more than half the size of the original Famicom board. And there's a lot more going on here, and of course it has this AV mod. I didn't do this, but it works, and I'm not going to mess around with it. And of course we don't need RF signal on the FamiClone. But you see, for how small and modular this is why I wanted this, and I really want to talk about the project, but I don't want to jinx myself because I'm still waiting on some parts, and I'm iffy if it's even going to work. But either way, this is a really great FamiClone, put together extremely well. Really, really impressed with the quality of it. So let's get it buttoned back up and just make sure it works and it can actually play games. All right, so it works just like you expect it would. And you know, now that we're actually playing, the controller is a little smushy. It could definitely be better, but that's kind of what you expect when you get a clone system like this. And because it's this 9-pin connector, I probably could upgrade the controller to something else. I would assume a Genesis controller would work in here. All right, well, hey, this works just fine. So let's try this 132 in one cart and see what gems are on here. Oh, it sounds like I'm breaking it when I put the card in. All right, so English or Chinese. Let's do English. All right, Turtles, Contra, Super Mario, X-Race. All right, so these are some pretty good games. Batman. All right, yeah, so it's your generic, you know, all-in-one cart. Got a bunch of names in here we know. I would expect some unknown names at the end when you get up to 100, or maybe some really weird knockoffs. But yeah, no, this is pretty happy with this overall. It's gonna serve what I want it to do. Hey, if you think you have an idea of what project I'm gonna use with this Famicom, let me know in the comments below, and maybe when I get that video released, you know, we'll call out the winners. All right, so this is gonna close this out. Unfortunately, I couldn't get my Famicom disk system working on here. I think that's more of a function on how I have it set up. But that doesn't matter because I don't need the FDS to work with this project I'm working on. Again, I hate being secretive with it, but I don't want to put the cat out of the bag in case it doesn't work. So yeah, like I said, if you think you have an idea what I'm doing, leave a comment down, and we'll let anybody know if we get any ringers on it.